So part of this I've been thinking of for a while. Part of this just struck me. And so I'm going to tease it out a little bit. I'm going to tease it out a little bit. So what is special about the firstborn? Why does it matter that there is a firstborn? We are introduced to the notion, the importance of a firstborn already with Yaakov and Esav. So early on in the narrative part of the Torah, where we get this sense that it's important to be a firstborn. If you look at the leadership of the Jewish people, there's not one leader of the Jewish people that's a firstborn, except perhaps Avram. Avraham might be the exception, but after Avram, Yitzchak is not a firstborn. Yishmael is born before him. Yaakov is not a firstborn. Esav was born before him. Yosef is not the firstborn. I mean, these people are all treated like a firstborn, but they aren't actually the firstborn. Yaakov is not. Then Yosef, who's given the double portion, is technically not the firstborn. I mean, because the Torah later on says that this position of firstborn goes to the first issue of the father, not the mother. Yosef is the first issue of Rachel, of Rachel, but he's not the first issue of Yaakov. Reuven is the first issue of Yaakov. Moshe, not a firstborn. Don't know about Yoshua, but just find one. Shmuel, not a firstborn. David, not a firstborn. Shlomo, not a firstborn. There's just, even though, again, this position is emphasized and valued, it seems to be a very important position in the family to be the firstborn. And yet, somehow, in almost every case, there's somebody else moves into a position of leadership instead of the one who it seems like should have been the natural candidate, the one who's actually born first. So, but why are they important? So one of the first things that would come to mind is that they are the continuity of the father. The father's building something. Let's say you have land, you have an estate. There's always there's like the burden of the maintenance and the continuity of the estate that you carry with you as the next generation. And the one who's going to shoulder the burden mostly is expected to be the firstborn. That's the explanation for why the firstborn gets a double portion. They get a double portion. What is inheritance anyways? Why do you inherit? So again, a simple first thought for why children inherit is because they are continuing the work of the parents. So let's say I'm born into this plane of existence. I'm placed here in what we call this world, Olam Hazeh. And I'm here for, God has a certain plan for me. He's got certain things he'd like me to do. So he provides me with the tools to accomplish what it is that he wants me to do. Amongst those things are property and financial whatever financial well-being I have. These are a part of the tools that I have to help me carry out my mission. Now, after I pass away, my mission doesn't necessarily end. It's taken over by the next generation. They are going to add their own unique, pieces to it. But part of what they do is carry on my mission and in the next generation. So therefore, it makes sense. They inherit the tools that I was given to do my mission, because they're probably going to need the same thing. If I'm an auto mechanic and my sons are taking over the shop, so they need the equipment. They're going to be continuing to do what it is that I did. And so it is with whatever our particular mission is. So all the children are a part of that. And but the firstborn seems to be expected to bear the primary responsibility for that, for carrying on the next generation of stuff. So that's why you would attack the firstborn with this plague. Why would that be the plague? The plague. It is the plague. If you when Moshe is going down before his first talk with Paro, God tells Moshe, you tell him the Jewish people are my firstborn son, and if he doesn't let him out, I'm going to go after his firstborn son. So, and that's the only plague he mentions over there. So this seems to be where those plagues are going. And again, why would you attack the firstborn? Because you're attacking their continuity. You're in a certain sense doing while they're alive, canceling their future. While the people are watching you cancel their future, you're canceling their immortality. You're canceling their continuity by attacking the firstborn, right? So what happens? So in order to protect the Jewish firstborn, God creates this special bond. But the consequence of this special bond is that these people are now going to be devoted to God's service. Now, how would it play out? Let's say nothing ever happened to change that. So what would happen? So, I mean, in a family that has a firstborn son, the firstborn son would go into the priesthood, and the next son is probably going to be the one that has to take over the family business. I believe the Italians had something like this, where the first son went into family business and the second son became a priest. I think there's certain cultures like that. And so it would have been that the firstborn son would have gone into service of God, and then a second son, or maybe the rest of the sons would just bear the burden. This is asking a lot, not just of the firstborn, this is asking a lot of the family, because there's a reason why that firstborn is the one most likely to bear the burden and to be part of the continuity, because he's the oldest. And as the family's growing, he's going to be the one who, just by virtue of his age, is going to get the responsibility earlier. And he's going to be seen the moment he's born as a kind of continuity of the father, just like the excitement whenever a royal family has the first boy. Or so from that time he's sort of picked, but he's also sort of growing into it naturally as the oldest of them. But now what's happening is God is taking that person. This is a huge thing. He's not just asking of the firstborn, he's asking it of the family. This is like a human version of giving your first fruits to the Kohen. You're the best, like with Cain and Abel, where Hevel gives of the best of his sheep, and that seems to be the preference. That's why God favors Hevel. He favors Abel's sacrifice more than he favors Cain's, because Hevel gave of his best. He didn't just give, but he gave of his best. And it seems like this is a sacrifice for the whole family. The whole family, in some ways, is sacrificing in order by giving up this firstborn son to the service of God, to the service of Hashem. This is asking a great deal. Plus, this guy is now, being groomed for something completely different. Already at a young age, they would already be sort of separated out and being mentored for something outside of the family. Part of, they're sort of like taken over in the national interest for something else.
Then you should get to the table.
Oh, okay.
All right, 1 second.
Okay, so is he acting out? So why can't you talk to a teacher?
Okay. So, yeah. So then what happens? Then comes the golden calf. And at the golden calf, it gets switched from the firstborn. So, and the firstborn don't get a consolation prize. It's not like there's some other form of national service for the firstborn. The firstborn goes back to that role that firstborns tended to have in a family.
So why do you think we still do Pidyon Haben if, as I understand it, it's you're exchanging monies for the kids' service to the people, like in that sort of, in this, the things that happened before this.
Right. Let's say you
yeah.
didn't. Let's say you had a firstborn who didn't have a Pidyon Haben.
Yeah.
He can't serve in the Beis Hamikdash.
Right.
Like he can't be a Kohen or a Levi, or do what their role is. It's now a ceremony which reminds us about what happened, but it doesn't. It has to happen. It's a mitzvah. We have to do it. But let's say you didn't. He doesn't do national service of any kind. He has been returned. I'm a firstborn.
As am I.
Right. So I once was researching the fast of the firstborn, which is done on Erev Pesach, and there was a theory that the reason for the fast, the reason that firstborns fast on Erev Pesach, is because when they go to the Beit HaMikdash with the lamb, the assumption is a lot of those guys are probably going to be the firstborn, because it's going to be someone with responsibility for the family who's going, representing the family. So you're going to have a lot of the people there with those lambs or goats for the Pesach offering, and they're going to see the Kohanim doing the service, and they're going to feel sort of depressed because it should have been them. That's what they're gonna feel, and so therefore they fast, and this fast we fast. We don't actually do the fast now because usually there's a siyum, a finishing of a tractate that allows people to eat on that day because it's Erev Pesach. So, but it's in some ways meant to take us all the way back to the golden calf and a lost opportunity for the firstborn. But again, we don't get the consolation prize. We just go back to doing what it is that we did before. So now you have Levi. Now Levi now has this responsibility. They're taking over for the firstborn. So I was thinking to myself today that in some way, this happened with Levi himself. That when Shimon and Levi decided that they are going to get their sister out of Shechem, and they're going to punish the people of Shechem for the rape of their sister, and they stand up to their father afterwards, who's not happy with what they did. And mainly, he's not happy because they did it out of anger, and they may have brought about trouble for the family by the way they did it. So he's upset with their judgment and the fact that anger clouded their judgment. But why were they doing it at all? Why were they doing it at all? Why are they the ones doing it? Shimon and Levi. And also right after that, you have Ruvain. You have Ruvain sleeping with his father's concubine, Bilhah, who was Rachel's concubine. And after Rachel died, apparently Yaakov made Bilhah his chief wife instead of Leah. They are sons of Leah, Reuven, Shimon, and Levi. It's Reuven, Shimon, and Levi each take an action that upsets their father, that is directly seems to be aimed at their father. Seems to be aimed at their father. At the very end of the incident with Shimon and Levi, they make a point that just hangs there. It just hangs there in the air. After the incident, they say, should our sister be treated like a prostitute? Is that what should be done? In other words, it seems like what they're saying is, you should have been doing this, not us. And then we decided we're going to have to take it into our own hands in order to do this. But really, you should have been doing it. And it seems like there's an implied sort of attack by Shimon and Levi and Reuven on Yaakov's fathering and the way he's managing his relation with them and with his wives, etc. So in a certain way, Levi acts. You could ask yourself, Reuven, it's awkward. Reuven is like 2 left feet in this thing. It's an awkward thing. And then the Medrash says he didn't really technically sleep with her. He just moved her bed out of his father's tent and moved his mother's bed in the father's tent. Whatever it is, it was an unsuccessful attempt at sending a message. And Shimon and Levi's was successful. Shimon and Levi's was successful. Reuven's not so much. So it seems like Levi's already stepping up to act like a firstborn in that incident with Shem. And that might be part of why they're in that position to take over from the firstborn in when it comes to the service in the Mishkan. But now they're taking over that role that was previously, now an entire tribe is taking over the role that would have just been the firstborn from a family. Something has changed. This looks much different. Okay, so now they're sort of in this place, but then they're being told that there's somebody else that is going to be put in this prime position ahead of them, which is the Kohen, which is Aaron. Now, Aaron technically is from Levi, but it's not going to remain with the tribe of Levi. It's just going to be the children of Aaron, this position. It's going to be, you could say there in some cases a subset, but it really, the average Levi is being cut out of a plum role that they would have expected to do. So when Moshe says, first of all, it says Korach, it introduces Korach ben Yitzhar ben Kos ben Levi and Dosan Aviram, the sons of Eliav, and On ben Peles, who are from Ruvain, and they stand before Moshe there's 250 elders with them, very important people. And they gather, it sounds like they're gathering against Moshe and Aaron, and they say to them, Rav Lochem. Rav Lochem sounds like you're taking too much. You've taken too much. Ki kol ha'eda kulam kadoshim ubetocham Hashem. All the congregation are holy, and God is in their midst. Umadua tisnasu akal Hashem. Why are you elevating yourself over the congregation of God? So I am suggesting another reading of these verses, and that is that he's talking about the tribe of Levi. When he says all of the Ada, all of the community are holy and God is in their midst, why are you elevating yourself over the congregation of God? That he's talking about the tribe of Levi. And that, and specifically, the problem is Aaron, but not just Aaron, the whole institution of the Kohen, that this is what they're having problem with. And then it says, and Moshe heard and fell on his face, and he spoke to Korach and all his people, saying, in the morning, we'll see who God has essentially chosen. Whoever God chooses is going to be the one to come close to him. And he tells them about this test that he's going to do. And he ends that whole thing with the specifics of the test by going, Rav lochem b'nei Levi. You have a lot too, sons of Levi. He's not just speaking to Levim. He's not just speaking to Levim. But because it already said, Dasan and Aviram and Om Peles are from Ruvain, and it talked about 250 people that were important people, etc. It makes it sound like this group isn't just Levim, but it's the Levim that were directly impacted by the appointment of Aaron. And that's why he says, Rav lachem b'nei Levi, and he says to Korach, Shimuna b'nei Levi, listen to me, sons of Levi. God has already separated you from the rest of Klal Yisrael to bring you close to him, to serve in the Mishkan, to be before the community and serve them. He's brought you, your brothers, sons of Levi, and now you want the kahuna? So this is what I'm suggesting to you is the complaint. The complaint is that a new class has been presented, a new level of special relationship to God. They were supposed to be at the top of the pecking order, and now a super group has been placed on top of them, and they're being demoted. And Moshe, if you look at the language, it fits this perfectly. It makes perfect sense. And also, if you follow the details if you just try to figure it out, okay, so what were the firstborn going to do? Then what were the Levim going to do? Then where's Aaron fit into this? And all this kind of stuff. This is where it just seems like this is the moment it's happening, that this is it's not simply that Korach just feels personally left out of the pecking order, right? That might be what happened. That might be what's going on in Korach's mind, but that's not why B'nai Levi, that's not why the people of Levi are part of this thing. Why is this a broader thing about the people of Levi? That's because all of Levi's being impacted by this thing. Okay, so now the thing is, though, that the Bechor completely lost their position and they go back to how things were before, just members of independent families. The Levi, it's not going to happen to. After the Kohen is put there, the Levi continues to be a special tribe devoted to service of God. But again, the actual service looks different than what it did, how it did in the beginning. The Rambam in his codes, so he makes it clear that it was always intended for the tribe of Levi to be devoted to divine service, even beyond that which was happening in the Mishkan. That they are, and you can tell from the Torah that to some degree that this was the case, they were expected to be the teachers, they were expected to be the judges and the legislators, because, and that's why the tribe of Levi is given a stipend. They're actually government employees to some degree. They get Meiser, they get the tithe, 10% of the net agricultural, of the gross agricultural output. They get 10% of that from every farmer. And that's because they don't get land. They're not getting estates that they can work in order to gain wealth and position. So they are being supported, and because they have that stipend, they can afford to study many hours a day, whereas a farmer wouldn't have the opportunity to do that. And so they would eventually make up a big proportion of the judges / legislators that are part of the Sanhedrin. He also goes, the Rambam characterizes it at the end of the laws of Shemitah and Yovel, the laws of the sabbatical year and the Jubilee. The Rambam talks about how a Levi is devoted to the service of God. And then he goes on to say it's not just the tribe of Levi. Any individual Jew can decide, if they want to, that they want to devote their entire life to God, and God will take care of them like he takes care of the Levium. But you see, in his vision for the tribe of Levi, it isn't simply that they're the beef eaters of the Mishkan, that they're the honor guard of the Mishkan, or that they're the musicians and the chorus of the Mishkan. The expectation was that they are going to be much more than that throughout the country, impacting Jewish life as people devoted full time to the service of God. The expectation of the average Jew is that they are always thinking about God and working on their relationship with God, but they're also having to spend a lot of time just getting by. And so they're not going to be able to lead unless they're extremely gifted, which there were examples of that. People like Rebbe Akiva and many others they were shepherds, but they were also brilliant, and they found a way to eventually make it as great scholars. But but otherwise, it's most likely to come from the tribe of Levi. This role that they play, that the Kohanim play, that Moshe played, that to some extent kings play, not just this role it's hard to figure out. It's hard to, you're expected to sort of grow into it and to fill the responsibilities, but even though it's never entirely clear, because our relationship with God in general is that way. We're expected to have one. We have mentors who are other human beings, but the other human beings who are mentoring us don't know that much about a relationship with God. They know what they know, and they pass it on to us, but they don't know a lot about it. We're supposed to some degree, intuitively step into it. There again, there's some guidance you can get. You could also get guidance about falling in love, or dating, or something like that. This is similar to that, because the people that are giving you advice, they don't know that much about it. But they can give you some advice, and not directly. Like, somebody could say, you're thinking too much. I don't know if you've ever gotten that comment from a friend or a mentor. You're thinking about this too much. What does that even mean? I'm thinking about it too much. What does it look like to not think about this too much? I don't know what it is. There's certain things where I only know what they mean after the fact, because they're talking to me about something that's meant to be intuitive, almost instinctual. And so the thing is, we can sort of get confused along the way, or lost along the way. So there's like, you can get a little nudge here or there, but still the experience is meant to be internal and almost instinctual and intuitive. This is our relationship with God. You can't point to it. You can't touch it. You can't hear it. You just have to sort of inhabit it. Did you ever read Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance? That book?
Long time ago, yeah.
Right. I'm not positive, but I think that he called it that because there was a book before that called Zen and the Art of Archery. And when they are talking about achieving, like, what we would call excellence, or near perfection in a particular skill, they tend to talk about it in this way, that when you finally are doing it at the level that the best are doing it, you had to discover that on your own. You could be led to it, you could be shown some examples of it, but you have to discover it on your own. And this is the case ultimately in our relationship with God. There's a certain amount of mentoring, there's a certain amount you could read, but at some point you have to discover it. This is falling in love. This is which makes this confusing to people, and particularly this role of, like, even figuring out what is it that's being asked of me when I'm being chosen for a particular responsibility or position. I'm not certain what's being asked of me. I'm supposed to sort of find it. And then sometimes I can think I found it, and then it's demonstrated to me that that wasn't it. And that could be devastating, because it's already so unnerving to move without knowing where I'm supposed to be exactly. And then when I think I found it, and I have that kind of comfort and peace because I finally resolved this and I found my place, and then I find out that that wasn't my place, that can be frightening. And you could you could feel the turmoil, the inner turmoil of knowing, wait, that's not what it was supposed to be. So then what is it supposed to be? And now I have to go back to that place again where I wasn't sure. And now I'm being asked, just be yourself. Like, what does that mean? Just do, like, just do what you're supposed to do. Just be yourself. Or I don't even know what they're talking about when somebody says that. I finally thought I had it. I finally thought I had found it. And now I'm being told, no, that's not it. And I'm looking around and I don't see it. I'm supposed to discover it. I'm supposed to intuitively find it. And it can be a scary place to be. It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be scary, but it takes a lot of mentoring and modeling for somebody to be able to stay in that place and not know for sure, and still have equanimity, still have a certain degree of equanimity where I'm okay. I'm okay not knowing. I'm okay not being sure. So again, there clearly in this Korach story, there's selfishness and there's rebellion. There's all sorts of layers of stuff going on here, but this is part of it. This is a big part of it. I'm certain of it, that they are now sort of reeling from the fact that they thought they knew where their place was, and now they are not sure where their place is. And think of how you're born. By the time you're aware, you're already told you're the firstborn son. There's nothing you didn't have to do anything. There's no mystery about it. It's just by virtue of the fact that you were born first, you're the firstborn son. You occupy that position, and with a sense of almost like of it's already been taken care of. It's already been decided. There's some of us, I think, when we're first trying to discover our career, there's some of us who wish that our father was a carpenter and his 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 father was a carpenter. And that's why I'm a carpenter. And we have the freedom to choose what it is that we occupy ourselves with. But with that freedom comes an uncertainty and this kind of existential crisis of identity. Yeah, that's my thought for today. Throwing it in the mix. I'm very grateful that we got to talk about this. I look forward to meeting again next week.